Brandon Flowers. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. So, Brandon, I'm fascinated by this record right from the off, as soon as I heard a little bit about what it's going to be. Tell us about it. Just paint the picture of what you wanted to achieve with this record.
Yeah, it wasn't that I was set out to do something extremely different, but we ended up doing something extremely different than what you're accustomed to hearing from the Killers. And I think so much has been made about, Las Vegas, and I still am an ambassador for Las Vegas. I wave the flag, and I love the desert. But I did grow up in a very rural town in Utah. And as soon as COVID hit, for some reason, these memories sort of started to pour out, and I was able to capture them and turn them into songs and these reflections and character studies and everything that I didn't realize I was absorbing when I was 13 years old. And it was kind of an amazing, creative kind of blossoming situation that I was really thankful for.
And what were the feelings that were coming out of you? How did they make you feel?
Oh, really really emotional, because I think a lot of them were tied to things that were shocking or really sad. And so it was really emotionally driven, and it wasn't so much the easiness of things that I remembered from being an adolescent, but it was it was traumatic things or dangerous things or things that were scary. I mean, one in particular is when I was in 8th grade, some seniors were hit by a train, and so I didn't realize it, but 25 years later, as soon as I started to explore it and write it out, I still have this grief for these kids. It was a surprise to me, and so I was able to follow some lines like that through into these songs, and it's just, I'm really happy with it.
It sounds like it's steeped in melancholy and an incredibly poignant album.
Yeah, and I think it was also in the 90s, and I feel like when I think about that music, a lot of it is very melancholic, and there's a hazy sadness to a lot of 90s music, whether it's REM or Smashing Pumpkins or Radiohead or whatever it is. And so I sort of wanted to draw from that too and apply that to the songs.
And is it Nephi? Is that the place that you grew up in?
Nephi.
Nephi.
Yeah.
So is Nephi a melancholy place?
Yeah, it depends on who you ask. But for me, it is. Even though I do have a lot more tenderness towards the place now that I've, with some hindsight and some lived experience. But yeah, I mean, some people that are born there and have a different view of it. But yeah, it can be very melancholic. Yeah.
Okay, and when you went back there, what was it like the first time? Because I presume it must have been like a field study, possibly. You just going back, and I remember
I have a sister that still lives there. I live about an hour from there now, so it's not far. And I would take the kids and find any excuse I could to go show them the apartments that I grew up in, or to the places that I used to go to. Here's my high school. Here's the golf course. My first job was at a Taco Time. It was called there. And
I think I remember this. Were you a terrible waiter?
Yeah. So we would go back there, and I also had a friend of mine take photographs. His name's Wes Johnson, and I would just surround myself with these prints that he had taken, and so I was fully immersed in the town for a few months. Yeah.
And what did your kids say when you're taking them around the places where you had your first job and your high school? Rolling their eyes, or what was their reaction?
They didn't give many thoughts about it. Yeah, they're pretty quiet about it.
Oh, Dad!
It's a stark contrast to what they're accustomed to. So it was, but yeah, I think they appreciate it.
Yeah, well, they obviously know that it means something to you, and it's part of you. It's what made you the person that you are today.
For sure. Yeah, and I do have a lot of great memories of my parent. I had great parents, and so I could share with them stories and show them, this was the spot that this happened, etc. So it was nice.
Yeah. Also, I've seen some of the imagery that's going with this record, and it took me to Nomadland, which was, maybe that's bleaker than Nephi, but that was the kind of idea I got, just because I know you've spoken to people as well. We get different people's perspectives of people who live there.
Yeah, that's a pretty, yeah, they filmed a lot of that in Utah. And so it's not too far off. Yeah. And, it's just, you paint the picture and it sounds cliche, but it's real in a lot of cases. It's just like, there's a rubber plant in town, and, half the men work there, and there's another factory outside of town. The other half work there. The people that stood out to me were the outliers and the people that kind of kicked against the religious culture and things like that. So a lot of them make their way onto the album.
So it's a reflective album, but at the end of it, what do we come away with? What was your conclusion, if there is a conclusion to be taken from it?
I think I ask a lot of questions on the record. I don't have a lot of answers, but I think just that I was able to open the door to this town and to this way of living and to these people's experiences that maybe a place that not a lot of people think about. And so I'm really, really proud of it, and I can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah, and we hear different people, as I mentioned, at the beginning of each of the tracks, I think. So tell me about some of the characters that we get to hear.
Yeah, you get to hear, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. There are people who just can't imagine living anywhere else and who, just adore the place. And then there are people who feel like a crab trying to get out of a crab bowl, and people, and they don't like the clickiness of the place. And so you get all kinds of experiences, but I think it helps seep you into the experience, and it really helps you understand maybe the songs more too.
Yeah, and it sounds like a study of human condition. We kind of strive for something, but actually just a day-to-day living and the sun shining down on you and having a nice swim or something like that. That's what life is all about, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the struggles and the opioid situation in America, which is still just kind of on fire at the moment, but it tore through Nephi as well and affected a lot of people, and so that makes its way into some of the songs, and it's just it's wild.
You must be. Well, actually, how are you feeling about doing live gigs? I know you have been pretty active the whole of the way through this, but stepping foot onto a stage in front of thousands of people.
My brother sent me a picture the other day of, I think we were at the O2, and he's in the pit, somewhere, and he has my middle son on his shoulders. And he was just sending me a picture just to see how much my son Gunner's grown. And I started to zoom in behind Gunner at all the people. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's so weird that that's what I do. And I look at it, and I started to get a little bit anxiety, but I think I'll be all right when I get out there.
I mean, we all lose confidence. I think everyone's lost confidence in even just going to the shops or just, putting on some posh clothes. Everyone's just a little bit wobbly at the moment, I think, and unsure of themselves.
Yeah, I need to get a couple under my belt before we go play that UK tour.
What would be your dream, the best place that you could possibly play when nobody could particularly see you? What would be the best way to ease your way into it?
Probably a theater. We should just take baby steps. Nice, maybe, or I'll go back to the Barfly, Camden, make our way back up.
Okay, if you're doing a guest list, right? Can we come to that, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, can you imagine doing one of those tiny gigs? That would be wonderful, though, for you to go back to where it all began for you.
Yeah, we do. We like doing that kind of stuff, and it's always something that we try to throw in to the equation.
Yeah. What's the look going to be with this album? Because I'm always intrigued about the look that you come up with. What have you been studying lately?
No, this one is it's got a lot of Americana in it, and I don't know that we're going to pursue that for the next tour, because there's still all these Imploding the Mirage songs that we never got to play in front of people.
It's going to be a nightmare putting a set list together.
I know. It's also just, we usually do about 19 songs, and so it's starting to get to the point where we're going to need to bump it up, and I got to see how my voice holds up and what songs we got to cut, and it's going to be wild.
You're just going to want to play all the new ones, though.
I know. It's tempting.
Yeah. Don't do that.
We're people pleasers.
I know you are. Okay, listen, it'll be lovely when you can eventually go over to the UK. We will be so excited to see you, and it'll be great, and we'll look after you, make sure you're not too nervous. And
okay, thank you.
And the album is out now, and it's called Pressure Machine. Brandon, thank you very much indeed, and
Thanks,
good luck with the live shows when they happen.
Okay, thank you.